Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel for day 29. I'm super excited because this is day 29 of my 100-day challenge. So if you're just joining, welcome. We're going to be talking about how to habit stack like a millionaire. And this might be something that you've heard of before, or it might be a foreign concept. Obviously, we all know what habits are, okay? So habits are things that we do on a daily basis. That's just more so of a regular part of our routine. Habit stacking is going to be where we pair new habits with existing ones. So, a lot of times people do this whenever they are trying to form a new habit. And so, if they have where they wake up every single morning, they brush their teeth, then they go grab their coffee, then they eat breakfast, they might end up adding in where they journal. And so, the journal would then be the habit stacking on top of it, because what this does is it kind of trains your brain to be in line with the habits that you already have, and then to know, okay, this is the extra thing that I want to add on. And just by you doing that, naturally trains your brain to kind of rewire itself. And it's almost like a mental cue. You know that when you brush your teeth, when you wake up, brush your teeth, grab your coffee, eat your breakfast, then you know that's your time to journal. So as you continue to do that on a regular basis, it's going to start being a mental note within your mind, like, okay, let me go ahead and start journaling. And so that's why habit stacking works and why millionaires use it. There's a lot of successful entrepreneurs that I've seen, especially on social media, that use it to build their momentum. The reason that they use it to build the momentum is because, like I said, you're building on to the habits that you already have. So if you're wanting to develop some good habits or better habits, stack it onto whatever you already have. And that is what keeps people building their momentum and having growth in whatever it is that they're doing. We also want to touch on the psychology behind this sort of phenomenon. So there is something that's called a cue, routine, and reward. So your cue is knowing, okay, every single time that I wake up, then I brush my teeth. After I brush my teeth, I'm going to eat breakfast. After I eat breakfast, the cue is you eating breakfast, and then that is going to be the trigger to for you to journal. So the cue is eating breakfast, the routine is going to be journaling, and then you'll have a reward from that. And that reward can be something that's extrinsic or intrinsic. So for something like journaling, that would be intrinsic, where now you know that your day is set up for success. You feel a lot better about your day because you chose to have that cue after I eat breakfast that I'm going to journal. And now my day is going to be a lot better because I got all of my feelings out. I got all of my thoughts out. I've made my daily routine for whatever it is that's going to be coming up for that day, or my agenda. So, what I like to do is starting with habits like morning routines, journaling, exercise, because those are going to be like your foundational habits that you should have on a regular basis. Those are the habits that are going to be the foundation of what you will build on. And stacking on top of these has truly a compounding effect. So, what I would do is, I wouldn't do, say, if you want to make a drastic change and you're like, okay, I work out every single day. Well, if you're wanting to then add on after you work out, then maybe you want to go have 15 minutes of prayer or meditation. I would not do too many things until you have mastered that going for exercise and meditating and going into prayer. So I would focus on one thing to habit stack at that time, because that is what is going to get you the results the fastest. If you try to add on, say you want to exercise, then you want to go to the bookstore and do some reading, or then you want to go study, or then you want to go back and take a shower, all that stuff. Like, those are types of things that it can begin to get overwhelming if you try to add on too many things at one time, especially for habit stacking in the beginning. So, an example of this is, like, after I journal, I review my weekly revenue goals for my company. And that is something that is helpful for me to be able to know, okay, is my business on track for success, or are we off track? What do we need to do to catch up? And so journaling would be my cue, and then review my weekly revenue goals would be my routine, and my reward for that would be intrinsic, me knowing what it is that I need to do to be able to push my business further and to be able to grow. So if you're not doing those things, it's okay. but try to build on things that are going to be more revenue generating activities, especially if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever that might be. If you're a business owner, you want to be able to check your weekly revenue goals, maybe even daily, depending on where you're at in the company. I know earlier on, I was definitely checking them a lot more frequently than weekly. And even sometimes, even now, I check them on a daily basis. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I want you to also keep in mind to use triggers that already exist in your day whenever you are habit stacking. So anchor your habits to things you already do. Like I mentioned, brushing your teeth, making coffee. Those are things that you're already doing. And it's not like a new habit that you're trying to develop or a new trigger that you're trying to develop a new habit. Do it to something that you already have that exists in your normal routine. If you don't have a normal routine, try to develop something that is going to be a constant. Rather, that's you waking up and brushing your teeth. Hopefully, that's at the minimum, or you waking up, making your bed. Those are things that should already be ingrained within your day that you can just naturally just add on whatever the habit is that you're trying to pick up. And a lot of times, millionaires will make growth automatic by designing things around their routines. So, like I mentioned about checking your weekly revenue goals or where you're at on your revenue for Q1, Q2, whatever that might be, that is how millionaires make growth automatic because they are staying in the know of what is going on within their business. So that is how they sort of automate it, for lack of a better term. They might even set up, or you might even set up reminders. So add something in your calendar that goes ding, ding, ding every morning at like 7 a.m. after you've had your exercise or gone to the gym and then you've had your coffee. Like, have something that is a cue where it's like, okay, now that I have to do this. And then when you have that cue, that is going to automatically trigger whatever it is that you need to be doing. Um, and then stack it for mindset and for money. So examples of stacking it for personal development is like after I meditate or after I'm in prayer, I visualize my goals. So one of the ways that I do that is I have things written on my bathroom mirror. Some of the ways that I do that is I have things written on my desk where I have like a sticky note, and it's just certain things that I visualize me pursuing or me being where it is that I'm wanting to be. And I go ahead and visualize that. There are studies that show the power of visualization is extremely, extremely important and foundational as you are growing, because sometimes it is hard to see it. Sometimes you're just in the trenches, you're fighting tooth and nail, and you're just trying to stay afloat. But the fact is, if you can step outside of that and just take a moment and visualize you are on a beach, you're making $20,000, $50,000 a month, and sales are just rolling in. You have a team that is functioning on its own, does not need you there. It is growing and scaling without you. You have people in your company that you can trust. Maybe it's not a large company, maybe you want a small company, but you have those people in certain positions where you can scale and you don't have to be there. You can actually be more so of the true visionary, being able to think, dream about whatever your heart desires on how you can grow the company and actually producing revenue generating activities. That is the power of visualizing your goals. I just painted a picture for you that a lot of business owners, like half of them don't even get to that point because they're so just stuck in the day to day. And that's what I want you to try to get yourself out of, is being in the day to day of every little thing. Delegation is so important. And so I'm not going to get into that because that's another rabbit hole, but just try your best to visualize whatever your goals are. Another idea for stacking for business growth is after I check my analytics for my company, then I send a client check-in because I am wanting to continue to stack onto the things that I'm already doing. I'm checking my analytics already. So naturally, when I check my analytics, I need to be sending a client check-in because why would I not? I want to be checking in on my clients. That is something that I'm already doing. So you want to build onto the habits that you already have. Okay. And sometimes it might not always be the easiest thing to habit stack. Sometimes there might be some habits that you're trying to break. And in order to break those habits, you need to have more positive cues. So not all habits that we have are necessarily good. But if you have a habit that you're trying to break, then try to figure out a cue or what that trigger is. So that way you do not do that trigger anymore, or you do not have that cue mentally for you anymore if you're trying to break a habit. And so, kind of an idea of this is like, after I leave the gym, I listen to a business podcast. That's something that I actually already do anyways, because I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to audiobooks. So sometimes it might be after I go to the gym, I listen to an audiobook that's on business growth and mindset and self-development, or it might be a business podcast. So those are certain things that you can implement immediately. Or if you have a dog and you take your dog on a walk, you can listen to a business podcast then. Or while you're going on your morning walk, maybe you can also be on a phone call with a client, checking in on them, or if you have an assistant, checking in with your assistant, getting the daily updates and things like that. Those are things that are able to be stacked on top of the daily habits that you already have. And then it also helps you to kind of condense time down, because especially if while you're walking, you're talking to your assistant or you're talking to a client, that is dramatically reducing the amount of time that now you're going to have to do that later on. So there's no reason for you to be on your walk unless you want to just be completely at peace, no one talk to you, anything like that. Totally get that. But for me, I normally, like, if I'm in the car or if I'm walking somewhere or whatever, I want to be on the phone because number one, it makes the time go by faster. And then number two, it helps me to have an intentional conversation with that person because I'm 100% locked in. That way, when I get to my destination, I can focus on whatever it is that I need to focus on. So it is just helping me to stay grounded and be intentional with the people that I'm talking to when I'm talking to them, even if I'm in the car or even if I'm going on a walk. So lastly, another one would be like after my team meeting, I send a follow-up Slack message with key takeaways. And that is something that is really, really helpful to do. If you don't already do that for your team, that's something that you should do because it keeps everyone on the same page, make sure everyone's in the loop, and things don't get lost in translation, which is pretty important, especially whenever you're having a team of, depending on how many people you have. Regardless, if you have more than just yourself, you want to have a Slack channel or a channel of communication to where everyone can put any takeaways, all their action items in one place. So if you found that this was helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I do appreciate all the support that you all have given me over these 29 days, and we're going to keep truck-a-lugging along. So I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow.